Okay, we're live. Hi, welcome. This is the Smart Elections Election Protection Forum. I am Lulu Friesdat, and I'm the Executive Director of Smart Elections. And we have a really fascinating evening for you. We're going to be focusing on two states, on Georgia and New York, and both of them are pivotal to some of the actions that are happening right now around our elections. So I'm really excited that you're here and joining us. And I'm just going to take a look in the comments and see if anybody is on with us yet. You can just pop us a hi, hello, if you're here, and let us know that you're listening. And that way we'll get started. I'm going to start by just talking a little bit about Georgia. Most of us are pretty familiar with what's going on in Georgia right now. There's a really intense runoff, and it's for the Senate. It's a race for 2 Senate seats, and these Senate seats are actually going to determine control of the Senate. So Georgia voters are right now already voting to decide who is going to control the Senate. And we know that control of the Senate is going to control much of the political life and actions for the next 2 years, because Biden has won the White House now, Biden and Kamala Harris, and the Democrats are in control of the House. And if the Senate is controlled by the Republicans, then there's going to be a lot of battles over pretty much every piece of legislation, every judicial nominee, many fights. But if the Democrats win in Georgia, they've got to win both seats, then they've got what we call a trifecta, and they will control the House, the Senate, and the White House, and they're going to be able to get a lot more done. So that's why our show tonight is called All Eyes on Georgia, because pretty much all eyes are on Georgia right now. If you're alive and breathing and politically active, you're pretty much focused on Georgia. So we're going to be looking not only at what's going on in Georgia right now, but also what's gone on in Georgia historically. Right now, the election that we went through, the 2020 general election, was very divisive, very tense, and the Republicans were really putting forward the narrative that there was a tremendous amount of voter fraud and election fraud. Now, that is not something that has traditionally been a Republican position. For those of us who have been following this issue for decades, it came as a bit of a surprise, because it has traditionally been the Democrats, and especially progressive Democrats, who have been incredibly uncomfortable with some election results and found them to be suspicious. And last forum 2 weeks ago, I actually played a clip of presidential candidate, former Senator John Kerry, saying that he thought that the race in Ohio in 2004 had been rigged against him, or he certainly suspected it. And they made the decision not to protest the way that the Republicans protested this past election. But it has traditionally been the Democrats who have been suspicious of election results, and suspicious especially of election machinery. And I think it's really important for us to remember that, because what that says to us is that it is not just the issue of one party or another party, of, libertarians or Greens or conservatives. It is the issue of anyone who really wants to have confidence in our political process. All of us have to have confidence in the election results. And so what I'm going to go do tonight is I'm going to walk you through some of the past elections in Georgia, so that you can come to understand that this current election that we just went through is part of a long history of problematic elections in Georgia in particular, and actually problematic elections in our country. We have a narrative, a kind of like apple pie fireworks narrative, that we're the US of A and we do elections right. And, those are like things that we know how to do. We know how to do democracy the same way we know how to throw big parties on the 4th of July. But in actuality, when you start to look at our history, you will find that there is a long history of troubled elections, election fraud, voter fraud. in state after state from really the beginning of the Republic. And much of that is documented in this book. It's called Deliver the Vote. And I'm actually going to read a section to you tonight from Deliver the Vote because I don't think this is online anywhere. This is one of my favorite books, I would say, along with a book by the Dalai Lama that I like quite a bit, The Art of Happiness. This is absolutely one of my favorite books, and it's because it is so thorough, it is so well documented. It is by Pulitzer Prize nominee Tracy Campbell, and it's a thrilling read. I recommend that you take a look at it. And we're actually probably going to be doing, we're going to be trying to give copies of some of this book away in our fundraiser, which I'll talk about later. So right now I'm going to get started, and what I'm going to, I want you to kind of like, I can't put this whole thing on the screen for you. I want you to just listen. I want you to close your eyes and imagine that you're listening maybe in the 1940s by the radio, and I'm going to read you a little story about an election in Georgia. And the election was Jimmy Carter's first election. So take yourself back in time. This is Georgia, and this is around in the 60s, the early 60s. So Jimmy Carter, as many of you know, who went on to become president, a Democratic president, whose only political experience to that point was serving on his local school board, ran for the state Senate. Carter was among a new generation of white Southerners who aimed to topple Jim Crow. Opposing Carter in the Democratic primary was Homer Moore, a businessman from Richland with deep political ties within his district. Early on election day, Carter received word that the voting procedures were a sham in Quitman County, a small county of just 2,400 people bordering Alabama that was run by Joe Hearst, a cigar-smoking, fedora-wearing stereotype of a Southern country political boss. Hearst was himself a state representative and no fan of Carter's politics. Carter sent an aide, John Pope, to Quitman, that's the county, to see if the stories were true of Hearst rigging the election before arriving on his own later in the morning. When Pope entered the courthouse in the county seat of Georgetown, so this is Carter's representative, Pope, going to Quitman County, he quickly understood that everything he had heard was probably an understatement. First, Hearst had moved the polling booth out of the courthouse and into the office of the county ordinary. So he's moved the polling location to a local probate judge who oversaw the election. Okay, then Hearst and his protégés lingered over every voter who came to the polls, exhorting them to vote for Moore. That's Carter's opponent. When one couple quickly placed their ballots into the box, hoping Hearst had not seen them, he simply reached inside the box and found the ballots, telling the couple, "You haven't learned anything about voting my way." He tore up the ballots and reached for two new ones, marked them for Moore. "That's the way you're supposed to vote," proclaimed Hearst, knowing full well he was being watched by a Carter man. "I have been running my county my way for 20 years, Hearst explained, and made a chilling threat. "I have put 3 men in that river out back for doing less than you are doing here today." So the book goes on to explain how Carter's margin of victory literally hinges on this one county, on the votes in Quitman County. There was a 224 vote margin that Hearst's precinct in Georgetown gave to Carter's opponent. And so Carter went on to fight this. He filed a lawsuit. He alleged election fraud, and it was actually taken up before a court that Hearst ran. It was like, so he didn't have a chance in hell in this court, actually, but he went there anyway, tried to get a ruling so that he could appeal it, but they wouldn't even hear the case. So he actually had to go voter by voter and get affidavits of people saying how they had voted. This was how they challenged the election. And they finally did get it before a judge, and they turned the ballot box upside down. And when they turned the ballot box upside down, they found out that all the stubs that were supposed to be there showing the stubs of the ballots, they were all missing. And there literally was almost no evidence of the election itself. And so he wound up being able to get that election overturned. It's actually a kind of legendary case, apparently, in election law. And the judge threw out the entire findings of the election, and Carter won that race. And as they say in this book, within a few years, he was governor, and after that, he became president. So that's what elections used to be like in Georgia. And with that kind of history, it's not that surprising that people are worried about election results now. Because when you have that type of history and you have year after year where people expect not to have the results be accurate, or they're used to that type of foul play, they get very suspicious. And I think we're in another era like that now, where people have become extremely suspicious of election results. And we need to move beyond that. We need to move to a new era where we can have confidence in the election results. And we have to think, how are we going to do that? And the way that we're going to do that is by the same systems that democracies around the world use. We need hand-marked paper ballots. That is the system that election security experts recommend. That is what countries all over the world use, are hand-marked paper ballots for voters who are able to vote by hand, and ballot marking devices that have certain security protocols for voters with disabilities. And then those hand-marked paper ballots, they need to be counted by hand in public to the fullest extent possible. So we have elections here in the US where we have millions of votes, and sometimes it isn't possible to count all of those ballots by hand in public, but we need to count enough to give voters confidence. And that's what's called a risk limiting audit. That's one type of audit. And you can also do a full hand count audit, the way they did in Georgia after this particular election. Although the way they did the hand count audit in Georgia in the presidential race that we just went through did not really follow good protocols. It didn't follow best practices. One of the things was that it used a piece of software to enter the results into, which is something that you never want to do. When you're doing a hand count, you want as little technology as possible, especially for the results. So I want to talk to you about a few things that you can do to try to help the results in Georgia. And I want to talk to you about some of the research that we've done at Smart Elections that are concerning, to show that even now, even with the three separate counts that they did in Georgia of the results, there's still concern about what is going on in Georgia with the election results. So we have a project called Count the Vote. Our hashtag is Count the Vote, and our website is countthevote.info. And we've done quite a bit of research about what happened in Georgia. And I want to throw up some links for you. I see some people in the comments. We'll just shoot through there and see if we have questions at this point. Show the book center screen, Lulu. Okay. Can you see that? Deliver the Vote. That's the book that I was just reading from. It's by Tracy Campbell. Fantastic book. Totally recommend you get it. We see some other comments here. Bev Harris exposed lots of fraud in past Georgia elections. Bev Harris is terrific. She's done a lot of really good research. So we've got a question here. How are the Democrats going to be able to make sure that, yeah, this is a really good question. Thanks for this, Leanda. How are the Democrats going to be able to make sure the vote is legit when they claimed the machines were fine for, she's calling Trump, current President Donald Trump? So that is really the question at hand. How are we going to make sure? And I want to just show you some of the data that we looked at our Count the Vote project, which was very concerning to us. And one of the things I want to show you, so the New York Times did some pretty good, some really interesting research. They compared, and I'll show you this right now. Let's see, they compared the original machine count to the hand count. And I'll put this link into the chat. This is a New York Times data. So there's the link for that. And there were serious discrepancies. They actually found about 4,000 votes there. You can see 1,700 votes for Biden and about 3,000 votes for Trump when they did that hand count. And that's because there were a number of counties that had memory cards that had somehow gotten lost or misplaced and didn't get uploaded with the results. And so then when they went back and did the hand count audit, they found a lot of those memory cards. And so those, those votes were discovered. And what they did, which was a little bit odd to us, they actually went back and added those back into the original count, which is a little bit confusing. But that was what they did. It had to do with the statutes in Georgia. What we did was we compared the original hand count, the original machine count to the second machine count. And what we found there were a surprising number of discrepancies in between the two machine counts, which you just have to say, why? You're running the same ballots through the same machines. Why are you going to have more? Why are you having discrepancies? So let me just find this screen to share with you. I think that it's this one. Let's see. Okay, give me one sec here. I want to pull this screen up for you. We had some really, really great data people working with us. These charts were prepared by two of our volunteers, Sharon Minsook and Sheila Crowther, and they're just both terrific. I think this is the one that I want. Yeah, okay. So you can see this screen now, and I'm sorry that it's so small, but I'm going to put the link in the chat also so you can go and you can just pull this up yourself and just make sure. Yeah, okay. Done with that. And I just want to make sure that I'm giving you the right link here. So this is our comparison of two machine counts in Georgia. And I've put that link into the chat now. And so you can go ahead and look at that yourself. And it's remarkable. If you see the discrepancies, the total discrepancies are not that much. Biden went down 874 votes in the second machine recount, and Trump went up 17. Now, Biden going down is weird. I said this in the last forum. You don't want votes to go down. You do not want to lose votes. That is very strange. You should not be losing votes. But what's even more strange about this is that when you look category to category, the swings are wild. The election day votes between for Biden, when they did the second machine count, went up by 6,000. And the early votes went down by 5,521. That's for Biden. And then for Trump, the election day votes went up by 10,000. That's your votes that were cast on election day. When they ran them through the machines, the election day votes went up by 10,000. The early voting went down by 9,000. And this was very concerning to us. But as I said, we had these really great data analysts working for us. This work was done, as I said, by Sheila Crowther, and she went through and actually tracked the counties where we found these discrepancies. She said 6 counties appeared to have these differences, and they were Appling, DeKalb, Elbert, Fulton, Monroe, and Sumter. And basically, we went through and tracked county by county, and I'm putting these up on the screen now so you can see these counties. And so what happened, we think, is that the counties just swapped how they counted votes. So Appling County took all of its early voting and moved it to the election day category. So you can see election day voting went up by 4,700 votes when they counted them in the machine the second time. But their total votes also went up by 49. So not only did they swap some categories, they also just found some ballots. And then each of these counties really moved ballots around. DeKalb County, they moved 2,700 votes from the early voting into the election day category. I think the things that were most troubling to us is when we just found large amounts of votes changing. So this is Fulton County. Fulton County, they moved 3,100 votes from election day to early voting when they counted them. Then they decreased election day by 186 votes, and their total votes went down by 925. That's almost 1,000 votes in Fulton County alone that they lost when they did their second machine recount. You have to keep in mind that this is a race that was won across the entire state by 11,000 plus votes. This is a very, very close margin. It's a 0.2% margin. And you've got counties, single counties, that are adding almost 1,000 votes the second time they run the ballots through a machine. These are huge discrepancies. And these are things that make us very, very uncomfortable about what is going on with the voting machines in Georgia. And this has nothing to do with partisanship. This is just about accuracy. This is just about the fact that this may be a very, very tight race coming up with these 2 Senate seats, as we explained, that the entire country is watching, that the control of the political process of the entire country hinges on, and they are being counted on voting machines that literally can swing 1,000 votes when you count them, when you run the ballots through a second time. That is not comforting, not at all. So now what are we going to do about this? The thing that is really most important is that we want to try to pressure Georgia Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, and the county election clerks to commit to doing a hand count, either an audit or a full hand recount ahead of time. We don't want that decision to come after the race is counted, because after the race is counted, it's going to be a partisan decision. If the Democrats win, then the Republicans are going to fight it. And if the Republicans win, the Democrats are going to fight it. But if they say beforehand, we are going to do a hand count, then everybody is committed to it. So we want you to try to pressure Georgia to make this happen. And we've got some really wonderful advocates who've been working on this. And I want to give a shout out to Jennifer Tanner. I see she's got her comment of, I'm here. Thanks, Jennifer, for all the work that you're doing. So she worked with Liz Throop, who's a member of Coalition for Good Governance, and they put together this letter. And if I'm lucky, I'll have it. I've got so many things up, but yes, here's our letter. I'm going to put this letter link into the chat, and I'm going to share it with you. And this is the letter to Georgia election officials. Now, they're recommending that only Georgians do this, but possibly you know some people in Georgia that you can pass it on to, or I think it's also possible that other people can try to communicate this. I might have put that in the chat twice, but it's okay. So let's just share the screen and take a look at this letter and what it's recommending. Let's see if I can, here we go. Okay, so this is for Georgia voters, and this really, I have to say, this advice comes from Marilyn Marks, who is the executive director for Coalition for Good Governance. And they've given you the emails there of who to send this to. And they say, write a personal letter. Don't write a form letter, but they've given you some ideas about what to do. And they also want you to BCC them at validatethevoteusa.org, which is Jennifer's organization. And subject lines: increase confidence in runoff results, or hand counting, canvassing, and poll tapes to calm runoff controversies. I like this one, it's short. Act now for a credible runoff election. Or even just something like, the world is watching, or we're desperately counting on you to get this right is another maybe good one. What you're gonna ask for is a discretionary manual recount for all 3 races prior to certification. And that's kind of a mouthful there, I have to admit, but I'm gonna put a banner up that says that maybe will help you. You're asking for discretionary annual recount. And what is that? what is a discretionary manual recount and why would we want it? Basically, what it is that Georgia statutes do allow for the Secretary of State and sometimes even the superintendents of a precinct to have a manual recount if they feel that there's anything to be concerned about. And I think just the fact that we've been through such a difficult election that had such a wide range of results is something that we can, the election officials could use to say, we believe that we need this recount, this hand recount, and we want it to be public, and we don't want them to use the type of software that they used in the first hand recount in the presidential. That's this little software piece called Arlo. We want a hand recount that's public, that follows best practices. And best practices generally mean as little technology as possible, and the counts are public right there. We know what the results are. And so you can also, what the other thing that Coalition for Good Governance did, which is very useful, is they put together a spreadsheet of all the county contact information. And if I'm lucky, I have this for you also. Give me one moment. Let me see if I have this. Because that way you can contact the clerks. And I personally think a call to the Secretary of State would be a good thing for people from out of state like me to do. Just call the Secretary of State's office, make a quick friendly call and say, we are encouraging you to have a hand count. And I don't have the phone number of the Secretary of State, but if somebody throws it into the comments, we'll put it up. Here's the spreadsheet that has all of the county contact information in Georgia. Jennifer Tanner saying maybe others should write. I kind of agree with that. I think if you write a quick, short, polite note that says, we're counting on you, the world is watching, I think it makes a difference. And as long as it's a personal note, I think they're going to read it. This is the spreadsheet of the county clerks. And Jennifer, thank you. Or I think it was Coalition for Good Governance that put this together. So you'll find all the county clerk information there, and I'll pop that up also so you can see what that looks like. This is what you're looking for. Sorry. It's okay. It's a spreadsheet. You're looking for a spreadsheet that maybe that wasn't the spreadsheet. Let's see. Full tape statutes. Here we go. Here's our county election officials. Okay. I think the one I gave you was not the right link, so we're going to go with this one. I'm just trying to give you as much information as I can because this is really what it's about. And I know at the end of the show, I usually say, this is what democracy looks like. But I'm going to say it right now, right here. This is what democracy looks like. Democracy is about open, transparent elections with public oversight. And it is about you, the public, making that happen. It is not going to happen unless you do it. And so here, this is the link. Actually, that last link was not the spreadsheet for the county clerks. This is the spreadsheet actually for the county clerks in Georgia. Okay, I just put that in. And I see Nettie McGee. I love this. I will take the time to write them. Thank you, Nettie. Awesome. Love that. Totally love that. And I want to just show you a little bit of the other research that we've done at Count the Vote, because I'm really, really proud of our data team. They're doing a fantastic job. And again, our website there is countthevote.info. We will, I believe, shortly have a lot of this data up. We don't have it on the website yet because we're really trying to be very, very meticulous about it and catching, mistakes that we've made. But some of the data that we're coming up with is really interesting. So Sharon Minsa, one of our, really our data team leader right now, did this really great spreadsheet. And I want to show you this one. Let's see if I can get this one to come up. And what she did was she went ahead and compared the original count, the hand audit, and the final machine count in every single county. And you can go ahead and take a look at that. And it is fascinating to see what type of discrepancies there are. The total we saw was 1,000 vote discrepancy, but that masks a lot of other discrepancies because sometimes the votes are going up and the votes are going down and they cancel each other out. But you can see, like, I mean, you can see here in Jorgensen, it went down 697 votes. You can see here, I'm just going through these and trying to pick the big ones. County total, this is 346. Sorry, trying to get it to show me which county that is. So that's Jorgensen, 346. And then Cobb County, 322 vote gain. Coffee County just apparently refused to put their results in, so their total difference was 0. That's a very interesting county there, Coffee County. They are not fond of their machines at all. So you can go through and look at this data and really just see county by county how the results really were swinging every time they counted them. And that's not what we want. We don't want to come out of the Senate race and have no confidence that the control of the Senate was just random. So I really encourage you to write these letters and make these calls and see if we can convince the election clerks and the Secretary of State there to go ahead and do a hand count. We're not seeing you scroll around, so we don't really know what you're looking at specifically, Sharon. I am so sorry. That's weird. You were able to see the spreadsheet, I'm guessing, but you couldn't see me scroll. Let me just try again and try to scroll more slowly. Maybe I'm scrolling too quickly because it's this spreadsheet is fascinating. I wonder, okay, it's possible I've got 2 of these up and it's possible that I was on the wrong one when I shared. Let's try again. I bet this will do it. Okay, so I'm going to scroll now and see if you're seeing me now. Yeah, you're seeing me now. Thanks for calling that out, Sharon. Nice. Sharon has a kind of evil eye. She catches everything. She's awesome. Okay, so you can see right there on Floyd County, they gained 219 votes between the machine count and the audit. And the machine count is what was eventually certified. So this last column that I'm telling you is just one of the differences. You can see the difference between the audit and the original count. They lost 436 votes. And then, I mean, it's just, I can't even fathom that. They went down 436 the first time they counted. Then the machine recount versus the original recount was down 217 votes. And then the final machine recount versus the audit was 219 votes higher. It's mind-boggling. Call the Secretary of State of Georgia and, okay, great, we got the number, thank you. That's what I wanted. Okay. Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, and say, we want you to do a public, thorough hand count of the ballots in Georgia using best practices and no software. And just make a quick, polite call and let them know. Okay, so I think that's what we have time for today in Georgia. The one other thing I want to shout out is that there are, what we did what Smart Elections did was a project called Count the Vote. We collaborated with groups all over the country and encouraged people to take photographs of poll tapes, and we analyzed the data from that poll tapes. So Scrutineers, which is another election reform group, another election protection group, is organizing poll tape photography this time. And so what they've got up right now is something that I'm going to show you. They are actually paying people to go and take photographs of the poll tapes, and it's called Sponsor a Georgia Precinct. So you can go to Scrutineers community.org, and you can actually make a donation for $25 and pay somebody to go and take a photograph of a poll tape, which is something that and then we at Smart Elections had analyzed those poll tapes. We haven't decided how much we're going to do for Georgia, for the Georgia Senate runoff in terms of poll tapes, but it's great for people to take the photographs. Then we have the data, and our group or another group can analyze it. And so go ahead, and I want to put this into the chat and encourage you to either sponsor someone to take a poll tape photograph or to take a photograph yourself. And I'm going to go ahead and put that website. This is the into the chat. That's the poll tape project, and I'll give you a banner also. That's at Scrutineers. So go ahead and go over there and support poll tape photography, because that is one way to try to track these discrepancies. Is you keep looking at those poll tapes from election night and comparing them to the final results and seeing if there's differences. It is one way to catch some discrepancies. It does not catch them all. And I did see that Virginia Martin had made what I think is a really sweet comment. I have to believe that some of the weirdness that we see in reporting relates to the fact that most boards of elections are horribly underfunded, and Virginia would know because she toiled within an underfunded election department for 10 years, doing incredible service to the public. Virginia, thank you for your service to the public. And many of our election officials are underpaid and under-resourced, and we do need to support them, but we also need to hold them to high standards. So we're going to pivot now. There's some other information that we need to cover, and some of it is very important. And one of the things that we're going to cover right now is funding smart elections. It's very important. I'm sorry, but we have to get funded. And if you care about this work that we're doing, we need you to fund us. We are on a fundraising drive right now. We are trying to raise $60,000 in order to bring at least one more staff person on board. We need a project manager desperately. I just have to say desperately, because it is quite true. And there's a lot of different ways you can do this, but the easiest way is to go to smartelections.us/donate. And you could also become a tax-deductible monthly subscriber. All of your donations are tax deductible, however you choose to do them. And I am just going to say, please give as much as you can right now. We have had people give a good deal just during this giving season. We've had people giving $100, $400. We've had some pretty good sized donations, and we're looking for anything that you can. If it's $5 a month, we welcome it. We're very grateful for it. If it's somebody who has a foundation and you can contribute $10,000, we'd also be incredibly grateful for that. I'm just putting it out there. We really need funding. So please, please do what you can to support us. And then the other way that you can support us is by following us and promoting what we do. This is our YouTube channel. This is where we are on Twitter. This is Facebook. Like us on Facebook. This is Instagram. Share our posts on Instagram. TikTok. Share our videos on TikTok. And all of those links are down below. Benny Smith is usually here, and usually that's his job, to go down below in the information area. But all our links are down there, so you can go ahead and link on all of those, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel while you're doing all that. So we're going to pivot now, and we are going to go to New York, which is north of Georgia, but not necessarily in any less trouble. People think of New York as a very progressive state, and in many ways we are, but New York elections are really behind and just trying to catch up. We have had historically some of the lowest turnout in the country, and although we've had some really good election security practices previously, they are in danger right now, really big time. We've already had our State Board of Elections certify one hybrid voting machine. And for those of you who haven't been following this issue, a hybrid voting machine is one that combines a scanner and a tabulator in one. It basically, you can vote on it, and it's often a touchscreen machine, and it both counts your vote as a tabulator and it scans your vote with a, and because it's, and it also prints out a ballot for voters who need that, like voters with disabilities or anybody sometimes who's voting on the ballot marking device. I feel like I'm kind of like mucking this up, but let me just start over. Hybrid voting machines, they combine a printer and a scanner in one. Why is it bad? It's bad because if the machine can print your vote or print on your vote at the same time that it is scanning your ballot, then it can add votes to your ballot and it can change your ballot. And security experts say that this is very, very dangerous and they do not recommend it. Yet these hybrid voting machines are being purchased all over the country. Why? It's because they are being, sold. They're really being pushed big time by voting machine vendors. And right now, voting machine vendors are pushing a machine called the ExpressVote XL here in New York. And Smart Elections is part of a coalition of groups that are working against that. So one of the things that we've done is we've written a letter, and we would love for your group to sign on to this letter. So let me just show you the letter, and it will show you some of the things that are problematic about ballot marking devices that work this way. These machines are called hybrid machines. This particular one is called the ExpressVote XL. And this is our letter against the ExpressVote XL. I think you're seeing that now. This is easy to find on our website. You go to smartelections.us and you look under voting equipment and search for ES&S letter, and it's right there. And I put that link into the chat. We would love for you to circulate this widely. We list a number of things that are problematic about the ExpressVote XL. We are asking the board to reject certification. The reasons are voters and candidates have lost confidence in the ExpressVote XL. It miscounted tens of thousands of votes in an election in Pennsylvania and picked the wrong winner. Many disability advocates and good government groups oppose the ExpressVote XL, including Common Cause and disability rights groups that Smart Elections is collaborating with. There was a report from the Pennsylvania certification that showed just user after user after user after user, and these were voters with disabilities, had difficulty using it. None of the participants were able to verify their paper ballot, and every participant had at least one problem. These were voters with disabilities trying to use this machine, which is supposed to be designed for them. And then security experts strongly opposed the ExpressVote XL. This type of voting machine, the hybrid voting machines, were actually called a disaster by Professor Andrew Appel. So these are some of the reasons that we're opposing it. And I'm going to reveal something tonight that we did not reveal in the letter, but that we are planning to add to the letter. So in researching why the ExpressVote XL was being certified in New York, or on the path for certification, even though it has this horrible history, I did a public records request to the New York State Board of Elections, and I got back a packet of emails from them. And I'm going to share one of those emails with you right now. And it's actually, for me, it was a little bit shocking. But I have to take a minute and make sure that I have this email to show you. Just give me 1 second. It's an email from ES&S, and it's written to the New York State Board of Elections. And what it says, what happened basically is that it turns out the New York State Board of Elections stopped the certification process for the ExpressVote XL in May of 2019. They had reason to do that. They believe that the New York State regulations do not allow for this type of voting machine, and they stopped the certification process. And within 3 days, they got an email from the legal team of ES&S saying that ES&S was going to sue them if they did not continue certification. And the email doesn't say we're going to sue you because New York has a right to use these ballot marking devices because they need them, because New Yorkers need to have accurate elections, and this voting machine will provide that for them. The email said, we're going to sue you because we have a right to sell these voting machines. We have a right to make money in the New York voting machine market. It's about money. There was nothing in the email that said, you know, we are really trying to serve the public and serve New York voters. It's about money. And that is what it comes down to, plain and simple. And this email demonstrates that more clearly and more nakedly than anything I have ever seen. And that is why I really want you to see this email. I'm just pulling it up right now. And give me 1 moment and I'm going to share this with you. We haven't shared this with anybody. This has been confidential up until now. And there it is. Let's see if you're seeing that. Yep. Okay. So I'm going to just read you a little of this email. I've seen a lot of stuff, and normally I pretty much take it in stride, but I have to say that I was a little bit shocked by this. So this is an email on Friday, May 31st from the legal counsel. This is Steve Melito. He's the legal counsel of ES&S, and he said that the certification process was, he called it improperly, but it was halted on Tuesday, May 28th, due to concern that you had about the XL not fitting into the definition of an optical scan voting system. So basically what he's saying there is that the Board of Elections didn't think this machine was right for New York. And what is ES&S response to that? Can we adapt the machine in some way? Can we make sure that you're comfortable with it? Can we answer your questions? Can we solve your problems? No, that is not their response. Their response is, accordingly, ES&S has authorized our firm to take any and all legal action necessary to preserve their rights as your actions, they call them arbitrary and capricious, as your actions have put ES&S in a position to lose many business opportunities to sell the XL system to New York State customers. Guide yourselves accordingly. Guide yourselves accordingly. Basically, I gotta say this. This is basically like, watch out, we're gonna sue you. And I have to say, to me, this is just how base it is. This is what it's about. Don't think that these vendors are out there because they have a long, standing desire, to help the democratic process. They are out there to make money, pure and simple. And I don't think there's anything clear. I don't think there's anything that could display that more clearly than that email. And I'm going to go ahead and show you another set of emails that I have to say show how duplicitous they are. So in this set of emails, it turns out that ES&S lied to the New York State Board of Elections about other litigation that they were involved in. So not only are they in it for the money, they're in it for the money and they're willing to lie about it. So in this email, let's just check that I've got this email up. In this email, what the Board of Elections says to them is, TJ, this is from, TJ is ESNS gentleman, a gentleman who works for ESNS, and this is from Brendan Lovelow, who works for the New York State Board of Elections. When reviewing the paperwork that's submitted, we noticed that your letter stating that ESNS had not been involved in any past or pending court cases does not seem to be accurate. After conducting a Google search, some of the following articles were discovered. Please amend your letter to include any and all cases as the law requires. The law requires them to disclose their litigation. This was a litigation they had going in Illinois, in Cook County. And then further research showed that there was more litigation that they had not disclosed to the board. So they said this is also from the board, a little more searching on our part. We found a patent infringement case, a lawsuit from the California Secretary of State, and a Department of Justice antitrust lawsuit, among others. Please update your letter to include any and all cases as required under, and they list the regulation there. I mean, this is just lie after lie after lie. And then on top of that, threatening litigation against New York State itself. So we are fighting this machine. And the next deadline for this is January 7th. This is a Thursday at noon. There is a meeting of the New York State Board of Elections. We are going to be looking for signups for people who want to speak at that meeting. We are requesting that people be allowed to speak at that meeting, and if not at that meeting, then another meeting. We do know from one of the commissioners, Douglas Kellner, that he has requested a public comment meeting. And so if you go to that letter that I put up on the screen, our letter, there is a link there to sign up to make public comments. And I hope that many of you will, especially New Yorkers, but really anyone who wants to speak out against these machines. I hope that you will speak up, because this is where the rubber meets the road. If we cannot have voting systems that produce an accurate record of the voter's intent, then we cannot have accurate, secure elections. There is no way to do a hand count, really a meaningful hand count of ballots that are produced on a ballot marking device, because the computer is the one that generates the ballot. And so you don't know if the computer has changed the ballot. That is why the votes that they count, even if they hand count them in Georgia, will never be able to give us full confidence in the results, because in Georgia, they are using ballot marking devices for most of their voters. For the early voting and for the election day voting, they are using these ballot marking devices. They are similar to the ExpressVote XL, the machine that we are fighting here in New York. They are made by a different vendor. Dominion has also many problems. And so the ballots in Georgia that get counted by hand that are really going to be trustworthy are going to be the mail-in ballots that are marked by hand. Excuse me. But here in New York, we are fighting the ballot marking devices. We have had hand-marked paper ballots here for 10 years, and we do not want to move away from that. And so we encourage you to have your group sign on to our letter, to go ahead and sign up to speak at the meeting on January 7th. And I will go ahead and put that letter, I'll put that link up on the screen, and I'll put it into the chat again. This is the letter, and please sign, please have your group sign. That's in the chat. And that's the link where you're going to find that letter to please sign on. Please share it on social media. Please send it to your networks. Please sign up to speak on the 7th. And Oh, that's from Georgia still. Sorry about that. Okay. And then I think what I'm going to go out with is this video that I think is really moving, that's encouraging people to vote in Georgia. And I love the song. It's by Andra Day, and it's called Rise Up. I'm going to just check before we go into that to see if there's any other questions that people have that my team member here, Mark, is encouraging me. Yeah, this is from Julie Weiner. She's very concerned. And she says that Julie's been working very hard on this issue. Thank you, Julie. And she says, if the ES&S ExpressVote XL is certified, we lose the right to vote on handmarked paper ballots here in New York. And that is true. So it is a very important fight that we're fighting here. And we hope that you'll join us and support our efforts. And so I'm going to go ahead and play you this video because I think it's really a lovely note to go out on. I think it's a really inspiring video about kind of the racial injustice in Georgia. Smart Elections is a nonpartisan organization. We are not endorsing any candidate in Georgia, but we certainly believe that every individual deserves the right to vote. Every citizen deserves the right to vote here in the United States. And those votes needs to be a fair process. And historically, there's been a lot of injustice involved in people having access to the ballot. So let's see if I can pull this up for you. And we're going to go out on this note. This is a song by Andra Day. And just gonna make sure that we have the audio checked because it's not gonna be anywhere near as powerful if we don't have the audio. So let's get that audio checked. Let's share the audio. I'm gonna try that one more time. And we're gonna go for it. I hope that you enjoy this. I think it's very, very moving.
The silence is quiet, and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe. And I know you feel like dying, but I promise we would take the world to its feet. Move mountains, bring it to its feet. Move mountains. And I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I do it 1,000 times again.
Isn't that wonderful? I think it's a really, oh God, really, really beautiful video, beautiful song. So I hope that you guys enjoyed that. I try to tell a few things that are personal about myself now and then. So I'm married to a Black man, a really wonderful Black man who inspires me every day. And it's a learning experience when you live in the Black community to really understand day by day what communities of color go through. There's really, if you haven't lived it, and I haven't lived it, but at least because my husband's Black, I experience more of it. You really have to have compassion and understand how important it is for us to really, really address that issue in this country. And fair elections can help us do that. Absolutely. So we all can keep fighting the good fight for fair elections. And all of you are beautiful. I love all of you for being here and really caring about this issue. So this is what democracy looks like. We'll see y'all 2 weeks. Come back. Make sure to sign up for the next forum. It's 2 weeks from today, so that's, I think, January 12th, and we will show you more of what democracy looks like. See you then. Make sure to tell your friends and your family and spread the word on social media. We'll all see you back